Just imagine, what if you could install an app that transforms your smartphone into a medical device to timely detect cardiac arrhythmias and prevent strokes from happening? That is exactly what we're doing at Fibricheck, and we're bringing seemingly simple but incredible sophisticated cardiovascular diagnostics to everyday devices. My name is Lars, CEO and co-founder of Fibricheck. For us, it all started back in 2014 when my father, who suffered a stroke due to undetected cardiac arrhythmia called atrial fibrillation, and he fortunately survived but underwent an intensive rehabilitation path. Atrial fibrillation, or AFib, is an irregular heart rhythm condition that can cause blood clots to get up to the brain, weakens the heart muscle over time, so you develop heart failure and increase your mortality rate with a threefold. There's a 1 out of 3 lifetime risk. It grows in prevalence with age. You're not always aware that you have it, and it's even more prevalent if you have other comorbidities such as hypertension and diabetes. There are today 200 million people who actually require ambulatory ECG testing to check for arrhythmias, but only 20% are being serviced, and 80% of those tests have no specific findings because arrhythmias can come and they can go. This results in a big waste of healthcare utilization, drives unnecessary costs up, increase in waiting lines, and reduces access to the much needed care and lowers the outcomes accordingly. This is exactly where Fibricheck comes into play. We're using commoditized devices that are already available in our pockets. We upgrade those devices with a piece of software, and if you have a smartphone, it's just as easy as putting your finger for only 1 minute on the camera of the phone. We get a PPG signal out of this that is sent to our regulated AI platform that has been trained on millions of data sets from more than 600,000 users and generates the best-in-class diagnostic result for this type of technology. Our results are aggregated in actionable reports, is available through an accessible portal, and can be seamlessly integrated into the electronic medical records. We are unlocking global market access. We're a fully regulated medical device in Europe. We've received last week FDA clearance in the US. We're capable of detecting up to 14 different arrhythmias. We have 5 blocking patents inside and outside of the US. We have the world's largest annotated PPG database from more than 16 million measurements. And we're using that data to develop new AI models for other cardiovascular conditions and are creating the ability to look into the future where we can predict certain events that will happen. We are compatible with over 17,000 different smartphone models and wearables, making us a very unique tool that brings us across the entire patient lifecycle. We guide unknown patients to the doctor. We aid doctors in finding problems they could not find before, and we provide diagnosed patients with remote monitoring solutions accordingly. If we compare ourselves to other FDA-cleared devices, we are the only one that is available across platforms, is software only, and does not need a specific hardware device. We can do multiple cardiac arrhythmias. We have the highest accuracy, which we demonstrated in a comparative clinical trial. We have the highest data quality rate, and all of this based on an optical PPG signal instead of an ECG signal. Our value proposition for patients is access to care. For providers, it is increased care coordination and workflow efficiency. And for payers, we reduce unnecessary healthcare utilization. Our business model is a B2B2C model with 2 million annual recurring revenue that is coming from Europe, Middle East, and Australia, with more than 50,000 monthly active users, generating more than 300,000 new data sets per month. We have 60 hospital systems and over 10 international insurance providers and integrators, and we've demonstrated a higher detection yield versus lowering the costs up to 50%. In the US, we've completed a multi-center clinical validation study, received last week our FDA clearance, and we can use the RPM CPT coding for a solution, meaning that patients does not need to pay out of pocket. With over 1 million downloads that we have on iOS and Android, our average age of our users is 64 years old, is very compliant, driving a very high usability, and I'll let our App Store rating speak for itself, which demonstrate excellent results. We have a team of 22 FTEs that just know how to get things done in a very capital efficient way. We're advised by renowned specialists from renowned institutes within the field, guiding us forward in this interesting right direction. We've raised 11 million to date. We're kicking off a late seed raise of 8 million with 3 milestones ahead of us: increase our ARR to 4 million, validate our business model in the US, and demonstrate our health economic benefits within the US, which will gear us up for a Series A round, after which we will foresee an exit scenario where exit partners are medical device companies in the diagnostic, RPM, or therapeutic space. So I want to thank you all for your attention, and if you want to try our application for yourself, go to the App Store, download the app, and enter this code to get it checked for yourself. Thank you.
That is outstanding. And so let's take some questions from the judges and with Lars. Lars, if you could tell us a little bit about the value creation that you bring to the system through your digital intervention.
Well, it depends on which patient population you're looking at, but mainly it means access to care is the primary reason and the value that we deliver, because people have to wait a long time before they either see a physician or get the right diagnostic, and therefore it takes longer to get the right treatment. A lot of people don't know they have a problem, and therefore you're able to access and help all of them. So it really depends on which patient population you're angling, but it's providing value across that entire life cycle. What's rather interesting is that the elderly population, which is actually suffering more from this condition than the younger population, has now really access because the device is in their pockets already. They are the ones that have a smartphone. They don't have a wearable yet. So that means that you're able to address the needs in that population specifically.
Okay, that's great. And then I know that Glennis has a question as well. Glennis?
Yeah, I wanted to find out, how do you plan on winning the physician recommendation? You're a B2B2C, and I'm assuming the plan is to get the physician to prescribe or recommend, and then the patient will comply. But currently, physicians are incentivized for remote monitoring, and how are you incentivizing physicians beyond improving outcomes?
Yeah, so in the US model, that there's differences with the European model. So we take the learnings we have from Europe and we try to translate them out into the United States. The incentivization for physicians is that if you find patients with this problem, there are specific therapies and interventions that are driving their incentives to make this happen. So if you get a patient early diagnosed, there are treatments that benefit the outcome of the patient and incentivize the physician. That is one layer. The other one is there are RPM codes, there are CPT codes, and the value that we bring on top of that is that we're compatible with those. But since we're software, there's more margins to be taken because you reduce the healthcare utilization and the cost of the workforce on those layers. So those are two clear drivers that we see today, and those we plan now to validate with our go-to-market in the next weeks and months.
That's great. Thank you, Glennis. And we have another question and from one of the judges as well. Go ahead.
Hi. So Lars, thank you for your presentation. And I know situations that your solution would be very helpful. My question is around your IP as well as your differentiation between your product and, like, say, Apple Watch and Google Pixel that does heart rate monitoring. So what's your IP that will prevent those type of companies to come into your market? And I'd love to hear your response on that.
So we have 4 patents in place. They are granted within US and outside of US. One of them is on smartphones and how we acquire the data, and therefore that is a blocking patent. So if others are doing it in the same weekend, they're definitely block them on that side. We've also have that model translated to the wearable. So if that model is also used on the wearable device, that's also blocking on those sides. And additionally, you have 2 other patents which are linked to how we train and work with the AI that is based on a very innovative method, how we're doing it. And that's the reason why we get such high performance numbers, where we're even outperforming the Apple ones in the market today. So that is helping us protecting it from the AI side. That's how the IP is organized. I hope that answers your question.
So how much better is this than what an Apple Watch or a Pixel Watch can do? What's the significance? What's the difference?
So when you take the Apple Watch, for instance, there are 2 ways that they measure heart rate. You can either use the optical sensing, which is the green light on the back of the camera on the device, or they have the ECG one, which is a superior one. We've demonstrated in a clinical study that we are better than their ECG capability. So we outperform their best-in-class capability. So that is where we differentiate. What is differentiating from that side compared to all the others in the market is that physicians, they can understand and read what we can do. So they can interpret this and clinical decisions based on that data. And we're not only saying you have a condition like they're doing, they're just having a binary condition. We're able to identify 14 different types of arrhythmias. So we are able to get this way more clinically relevant than what they have. And on the other side, you have a complete clinical infrastructure behind that travels the data. So if you find somebody with a problem, you're able to navigate them to the right care, where otherwise they just are alerted and they should take action, which the people are typically not educated to do themselves. So there are different layers of differentiation on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really well said. Thank you. And then last, but of course not least, Tiffany, did you have anything that you'd like to ask Lars as well?
Yes. Lars, can you talk a little bit about the provider burden, perhaps, or how you anticipate on making sure that the provider is not inundated with extra work based off of the great product that you're providing here?
Yeah. So I can only speak from the data, the hard data that we have obtained in Europe, where you see the cost effectiveness going up to 50% compared to what they're doing today. So providers, if they have usual care and you would deploy our system in every care pathway that we go, it is between 50% and 80% reduction in either time spent or device utilization in those pathways. So we don't increase more work, we actually create more free time to spend on more relevant things. So that is a clear value proposition that's linked to that.
Great. Thank you so much.